Yeah, so it just leads into whatever it leads into.
Yeah, wherever it goes.
Okay,
That's how it happens.
I like that.
Let's start with kids first.
Okay.
Because it's birthday season for us.
Yeah?
It's
Okay, Phoebe's birthday coming up?
27th. She turns 3.
Okay. Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then Shepard just turned 1.
Did he really?
Yeah. Yeah,
Crazy.
It's crazy how fast. And then
Awesome.
it's like coming to the point where we should start to have a third.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
If we're wanting to space them out evenly.
Right.
You have 3 kids, right?
Yeah. 3.
An older boy?
So, yeah, our oldest is 19. He's in college. He's at GCU. Loves it. And then 2 girls, twin girls. I wanted a lot of kids. And then
I keep forgetting that they're twins.
my twins turned like 2. And I was like, that's
Okay.
it. There's no more kids for me. Like,
Yeah.
they were so crazy in wonderful ways, but it was insane. I
Yeah.
went from, I told Beth, I'm dramatic. I told Beth, I want to be in my deathbed surrounded by my children, like
Mhm.
some stupid,
Yeah.
super dramatic thing.
Yeah.
And she's like, whatever, I want 3 kids. And so she won. Yeah, definitely. We
Yeah.
have 3 kids. So the twins are just turned 17.
Okay.
I love the spacing, similar to what you're doing.
Yeah.
You know, the 2-year spacing. So they're doing really well. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Twin girls, beautiful.
I wonder,
girls.
do you think it was because they're twins that it was hard and you were like, I'm done? Or
Yeah.
really? Because I have another friend.
Yes.
He had 1 kid and then he had twins, and they went straight to a minivan after that.
Yeah, we did the minivan.
Yeah.
We counted the years. We did 16 years of minivan. Yeah.
What was it?
So many different minivans through the years.
Okay.
Like we got hand-me-downs at times, like
Yeah.
from family. They're like, we're done with our minivan. Take it till it dies, kind of thing.
Okay.
We had every make and model. At some point, we bought nice ones, but yeah, we started off with just these little Dodge Caravans, and
Yeah. They don't make those anymore. I don't
no,
think,
they
right?
don't. Yeah, pretty cool though. They're great.
Yeah.
Once you make the leap to minivan, you're happy. Everyone who makes
Yeah.
the leap, like they're reluctant to do it. They want SUVs. They, yada yada.
Right.
But they make the leap and they're like, it was the best thing we ever did. Minivans are awesome. Yeah, I'm confident.
Yeah. We're
Where are
on
you
the
guys?
fence on
Are you?
that. Because I've heard a
What
lot of
is
good
it?
things. Honestly, every time I see a minivan, I'm like, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Like the sliding doors, I think is really cool.
Super nice. Yeah.
All the space in the back.
Uh-huh.
And they're nice these days.
very nice. Yeah.
So, and like how low the floor is too. So the kids can just get in. You don't have to like pick them up to put
Yeah.
them in. Like Phoebe could
They
just
climb
play.
in.
Yeah. And so that there's so much that's good about it. But then I'll hear like one thing that's like, they have bad, they're just not reliable. And I'm like,
I don't know about that. I think they're quite reliable.
really?
Well, they've been selling, millions of them for years.
Yeah.
They're really
People
good.
are buying them.
It depends on which one you buy, right? At the end of the day. So there
Yeah.
are issues with all the new technology. I would kind of like, yeah. So I agree in some ways, like that automated door opening and closing thing. I've personally had to change out 5 or 6 of them.
Really?
It's not fun, not easy, but it is what you got to do. There are things that break for sure, but
Yeah. Especially today's vehicles have a whole bunch of computer and
Yes.
electronics that
yes, actuators and
it'd be nice if they just made like an old minivan, but new.
I really feel what they need to do is offer you the oldest version, the most stripped down version, if you want it.
Yeah.
Like totally lame, stripped down, simple, nothing to
No
break.
CarPlay, no
How's that to
automatic
break?
doors or
Yeah. But then, man, I tell you, when you can press the button, Phoebe gets in the car. You know what I mean?
It starts on its own.
Starts on its own. It's nice.
That's cool. So this is one thing that I kind of, to take it to a different direction, stopping at 3 kids.
Mhm.
What were you struggling at all with, like, do we have a say in how many kids we can have, or do we just keep
Yeah.
going? And like, how did
Yeah.
you guys approach that?
Yeah, we didn't really struggle with, knowing how many we had and just trusting the Lord was, blessing us. So we prayed, Lord, how many, and it wasn't a spontaneous, I'm done or anything,
Yeah.
but we really did feel like the Lord had 3 for us. Yeah, and we just moved forward with that. So the the conversation within Christian circles is, are you not playing God if you're not reproducing and stuff like that?
Yeah.
And it's no, is my short answer. Today's like it'd be like, well, are you not playing God if you go in for cancer treatment? Can't you just trust the Lord? It's like, come on, guys. We
Yeah.
uh we are taking advantage of the wisdom God's given us, the people who are creating the things to allow us to control how many children we have. So to Beth
Right.
and I, it doesn't bother us. To some people it does though. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. That's another one I'm kind of just struggling with is, do we just keep going? Do we stop?
Yeah, yeah.
Because it feels like, well, so here's the other side of it. People who get married and then choose not to have kids. And I'm talking
Right.
actually choose, not just like, oh, we tried, we can't have kids.
Right. They're just yeah.
They're just like, we don't want kids.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
Well, I feel I can understand there's a weight and a burden to the reality of having kids. I've got to take care of these children. I got to provide for them. Like my whole life now is really set aside for them. I'm driven for them.
Mm-hmm.
Like once I had kids, life took on a lot more meaning. The work I do took on way more meaning because it's for my kids and my family. Well, until you've had kids, you don't know that.
Right.
And so people are coming at it with this expectation that they're sacrificing. There's a big sacrifice to having kids. It's going to
Yeah.
stop them from their goals. And you know what? Having kids isn't for everybody. It's not God. Some are born eunuchs. Some choose to become eunuchs. The Bible tells us, right? They're deciding. I'm not getting married. I'm not
What
having
about
kids.
what about just marriage? Like if you get married,
Yeah.
especially as a Christian. So you get married, you're a Christian, your spouse is a Christian. Do you, it's kind of hard to say like you need to have kids, but is that
Well,
is
I
that
would
true?
no, I wouldn't say you need to have kids. And there is you know, arguments for why a person might not be called to have kids. There are places and people who are called to not. I believe that. But I would always kind of err on you're missing out. Like you don't know what you're missing until you've had kids. The things you're trying to gain by not having kids, they're fine, but they just pass by.
Yeah.
And then you end up older in life, far more lonely, and if you never have kids. So the statistics are pretty legit on this.
Mm-hmm.
That actually, if you get married young, you have kids young, and you live your life as a family, you're way healthier, way happier in your 30s and 40s if you do that. Versus the person who's like, man, I'm only going to be in my 20s once, and they decide, I'm not getting married. I'm not doing any of that stuff. I'm going to go explore, discover who I am, all of that. And then they get married. Then they start having kids at 35.
Mm-hmm.
They're not near as happy at 35 starting to have kids as somebody who did it younger ends up happy at 35. The two are incomparable. And so there
Mm-hmm.
is something amazing. The beauty is it's the family. Like you talk on this podcast about family and
Yeah.
marriage, and family is the key word, in all of it. It's God's
Yeah.
basic structure, the smallest structure from which all of society is built. Without kids, you can't do that. We have to have kids, right? But I remember my son walking up to me when he just started to walk, and I was sitting on my bed, and he like grabbed my knee and gave my knee a hug. He was that short, and then he walked off. I thought, I have never known love like this.
Yeah.
This is unbelievable. And man, I would rather have that at 24 years old, 25 years old, than I would an awesome ski season in Vail. There's no way. Not for a minute I'd give up a whole season of great powder in Vail for that moment with my son. So that's kind of, how do you explain that to a 25-year-old who wants to explore? And it's okay. Go for it.
Yeah.
Do your thing. But man, the family it's where it's at.
That's a really interesting. Yeah, I haven't thought about it that way. The one way that I have heard is if you are trying to decide whether or not to have kids as a Christian
Yeah.
and you're married, and the primary reasons that are stopping you are fear or
Mhm.
your comfort, then those aren't valid
Right.
because those aren't biblical principles to be
Right.
afraid or to be comfortable.
Right.
So what about
Yeah, it's
those?
no, and they're not. So, it's amazing as a family unit, you experience God. So you're gonna watch God provide your first home. You're gonna watch God provide, this job or that job. You're gonna see him provide for your kids. You're gonna see all these things that he does. And as a family, you're gonna all watch God do something cool. And that's what it's about. It's so that your kids can experience God through your life as parents. You are to prove God's existence to your kids, right?
Mhm.
And so when I'm doing biblical counseling or marital counseling or just pastoral, whatever, I'll generally get down to the root question in an issue with a marriage. And so for your listeners, here's the question, right? I'll have a husband and a wife sitting there. Their marriage is very rough, near separated, if not separated. And they're finally sitting with someone and talking, which is great. That's a victory.
Mhm.
But after he said, she said time, he says this, she says that. I don't know who's speaking the truth and who's not. And what I'll usually do is say, okay, guys, how about this? I need to talk to your kids. Your kids know what's really happening. And then the parents in that moment, they can't say, no, you can't talk to my kids because that looks suspicious.
Yeah.
So they always say, yeah, okay, fine. But then I say, you know what? Before I do that, let me ask you the question I'm going to ask them. And they're like, okay, what is that? And I say, what if I ask your kids, does your parents' relationship with God reflect an awesome God? Does your parents' relationship with God, their existence their marriage prove that God is awesome and powerful? What will your children say when I ask them that question? And they always say, they're gonna say no. And that's
Wow.
and it's like, okay, guys, that's the problem. This is not a marriage built to reflect the glory of God. This is two selfish people sitting here. You're two Christians. You should have died to yourself, right? And live for the glory of God. So here's the best, most important part about parenting, the biggest part, the one you have to answer to God for at the end when you're answering to God for your life and your parenting is, did you reflect that God is awesome? Did your children know through your life that God is powerful? He's awesome, he's loving, he's kind, he's merciful. Do they truly know who God is through your marriage? Because that's the goal. And if they do, man, watch out. Your family's going to destroy. You're going to walk around conquering. It's going to be epic and it's going to be awesome. And that's the goal. That's the only goal.
Yeah.
It's not why to get them to go to a good college. I'm not raising you to get you to go to a good college. I'm raising you so you know a good God. You got to know God. If you do, you have purpose, you have meaning, you have faith, hope. You'll be like, I can have kids. God's going to provide for my family. I'm having kids, right? I saw him do it for my family. I want that for me, right? And
Yeah.
so I think that's really where the battle line is. It's not really I don't want kids or I do want kids. It's like what's the goal of kids? And if
Mhm.
people can grasp that, they go, "Oh, that sounds exciting." I think God's jealous for your children, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now imagine you position yourself in such a way that God can glorify his name in your life and win your children's hearts, right? He wants your children. That's what he wants. He
Mhm.
wants them following him, worshiping him, knowing him. So he's with you in that goal, but it's exciting. It's hard. I mean, it's real. Doesn't get more real, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, that's a helpful mindset shift to it's a good principle that applies to all areas of marriage. Um, but what about so my struggle, I think, is understanding like, oh yeah, this is what a perfect marriage looks like. We have to do this. We have to be sacrificing and all that stuff.
hmm
But like actually putting it into practice is what's hard.
Yeah.
Because like we can talk about it, what an ideal marriage looks like, but I am not anywhere near a perfect husband. I don't think. So how do you kind of wrestle with that? You have how long you been married?
So 22 years. I think we're coming up on
Okay.
22. Yeah.
So you've figured out a little bit more stuff than I have hopefully in the more years that you've had than us. We're at 3.5 years, I think.
Awesome.
So yeah. But there's still there's people beyond you too,
Hmm.
right? Like
Oh yeah,
my
it's like,
grandparents, I think are at 50 something years or something,
yeah.
which that's amazing. I want to talk to them about it too. But
Oh
just in the
yes.
20 years,
Yeah.
what are your tips, I guess?
Yeah. Well, honestly, just from the years of pastoring, all my tips come out of that because I've
Yeah.
seen it done wrong. I've seen, oh, okay, if you veer from this path and you go this direction, this is what's going to happen. And so a lot of my tips really come from just watching and seeing, the damage of sin.
Hmm.
So Luke 17. Here there's an expectation. Luke 17 really conquers entitlement in your heart. And entitlement in parenting and entitlement in relationship often looks like I worked hard all day. I come home. I deserve 40 minutes of just peace and quiet. I just need to chill. And Luke 17 says, no, that's absolutely not what you're entitled to. Um, and then, or entitlement could be, you know, I'm bringing home all the money, so she should do all the cleaning. Or,
Hmm.
there should be a fairness within our marriage. And that's not actually true. There should be a oneness within your marriage. Fairness isn't really something we calculate. You shouldn't be like, love doesn't count sins. Love doesn't do those things where keep track of records. Like you didn't, man, I took the garbage out 3 months in a row. You never said thank you. You start doing all
Right.
these things. Um, no, it's fairness isn't the goal in marriage. It's unity, right? We are united in this goal and walking with God in that. But so we got to fight entitlement. You got to fight this idea that you've earned something or that you deserve something from your spouse. It's really strange, but it's because it's not true. So here, why Luke 17? So Jesus, so you got the prodigal son. He returns. We discover the prodigal and his brother are kind of a little bit like they're both wrong, but the prodigal returns, the brother gets jealous. The brother's like, "You've never killed a fatted calf for me." And the father's like, "Rejoice, your brother who was lost has been found. Rejoice with us."
Hmm.
And so you got the older brother who feels entitled to his own celebration. He never left, he never sinned. And you got the other brother who accepted he is entitled to nothing and comes home repentant and gets everything. Really weird, right? And that's really what we need to do is accept we're not entitled to anything. Here's Luke 17. When you've done all that is asked of you, Jesus says, don't expect a thank you. That's not why we're here. Your wife will thank you, your kids will thank you, you'll teach them to say thank you. All that will come. But don't live for the thank you, because when the thank you doesn't come, entitlement rubs up against you and you can get angry and frustrated with your spouse. You're supposed to pay the bills, right? You shouldn't pay the bills expecting a thank you. Dads are supposed to feed their kids. So entitlement says, hey, kids, clean the house. I fed you. So you guys got to clean the house.
Hmm.
Where the truth is, you're supposed to feed your kids.
Hmm.
That's your job. You're supposed to do it. So there shouldn't be a reward for doing your job. Barry Sanders is the greatest. He's the greatest NFL running back of all time, according to Emmitt Smith, who technically is the greatest of all time. So if the greatest of all time says you're the greatest of all time, there we are. Barry
Yeah.
Sanders. He used to run, get touchdowns, hand the football off to the referee, and then go sit on the bench. And then people would ask him, how come you're not dancing in the end zone,
Right.
like everybody else? And he's like, I get paid to score touchdowns. That's it. I don't need to dance. And that's humility. That's the humility that really wins over entitlement. That's the Luke 17 humility. It's like, I don't want credit for doing my job because that is poor character. I don't need a claim for paying the bills, for going to work. I'm supposed to go to work. So
Mm.
then, if you can defeat that kind of mentality and then bring it into your marriage and say, I'm supposed to serve my wife. So Luke 17 says to a servant, the master says, after you've done fed me and given me water and food and all this, then you can eat. That's what it opens with. And the servant is you and I throughout the whole thing. So after everyone else is fed, after everyone else has drank, the Father has a plan to feed us and give us something to drink and rest. That's
Mm.
that's the answer in marriage. Okay, all right, everyone else is done. Cool. I'm going to chill now, you know?
Yeah.
But you can chill and God has a rest. He has a peace for you after everything else is done. And that could be, sitting at the table paying the bills. You don't want to do it. I hate that. I just want to watch the football game or whatever. After that's done, go chill. But it's yeah, it's a lot of words. I'm sorry I'm babbling,
No,
but
it's good.
but really
Yeah.
that's hard attitude of I will not live to get acclaim for doing what I'm supposed to do. That's poor character. But it's becoming super popular, right?
I like that. I think it makes a lot of sense. The one thing, not to push back on it, but I guess
Mhm.
to um if you can lean too far into that, I guess, where it's like I'm not expecting anything, and therefore I'm just gonna come home. I did my part. I'm not gonna expect anything from you, and I don't expect you to expect anything from me. Like there's like it can get lazy, I guess. Which I'm just saying that because I've noticed that with me,
Mhm.
where it's like I don't really expect her to do the dishes or to clean the house, do laundry or anything like that.
Yeah.
I just get home and I'm like, don't expect anything from you. Don't expect anything from me. Like,
Okay.
as that's kind of, so how do you pull back from that?
So if nobody has an assignment, like nobody has like a
Not formally, I guess with us.
so with you guys, you're saying like you can come home and if both of you choose not to really clean, that's okay. Like so
Yeah.
versus hey, I can't do chill or do anything until all the cleaning is done
Yeah.
and all of that. So there's a balance. You've got
Right.
to be able to live in a mess, especially if you have kids, right? You got to be
Yeah.
able to live in a mess.
That's good to hear. So funny story.
Yeah.
We, my mom has been watching the kids every now and then. So she lives in Denver. So
Okay.
we brought them a couple times, and it's great bringing the kids to her house. And then within 30 minutes, everything is everywhere.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, yes.
Yeah.
Like
Exactly.
it's not just our house. Because it
No.
does feel like that. Like I'll clean the whole living room and then all of a sudden
Yeah.
I look back and there's toys everywhere.
Yeah.
And that's so frustrating. So it's kind of funny to go to her house and be like, okay,
Yeah.
it's normal.
Yes.
But
No, that's funny. It is normal. So yeah, there is this movement of like everything's got to be uber clean, uber organized all the time. And it's got to be in a perfect basket and it's got to be on the perfect shelf. And
mhm,
if my kids were to take that down and then take the toys out, they got to put it back in and put it back away and clean it all super nice in order for me to have my sanity. Some people struggle with mess and some people struggle with I don't want kids cuz I can't handle the idea of all this mess and chaos.
mhm.
I personally don't like chaos.
Oh, I hate it.
It's something yeah, against
That's I had to really like letting them eat in the high chair like spaghetti or something,
mhm,
and they'd get super messy.
mhm,
I would have a breakdown.
yeah.
I'd be like, I can't touch them. I try to like grab a wipe, and I'm like, what do I start with? Because I'd wipe one part, and then they just touch it again, and it's like,
Yeah.
yeah. So I totally understand the whole.
Well, here's the crazy part. There's the gospel right in there. It's like the Father sent his son. He entered into our chaos. He cleaned our feet. He cleaned that mess. He did it. And there's no way he liked chaos. He's perfect. He calmed the sea when it was chaotic. The Spirit calmed the darkness and the chaos. Well, that's a big reason a lot of people say no to kids.
Mhm.
Like that, I can't handle it. But what you need to do is say, well, you know what? We're going to accept that until our kids can really clean after themselves and until we can consolidate toys down to this and that and down to their interests, there are years of mess. There just really are. And it's okay. It's okay. And if you're
Yeah.
both tired, it's okay. Let the dishes sit till tomorrow. If you can't sleep because the dishes are there, that not a strong indication of great mental health. You should be able to
Mm.
say, okay, this has to wait till tomorrow for my sanity, and I go to bed.
I had that conversation with our small group once. How your home reflects your marriage,
Hmm.
and yeah, if you start to there's a constant needing to clean things.
Yeah.
I forget how it's explained normally, but the just the world has a natural direction towards chaos. So
Mhm.
things are just, you let something sit and it's just going to start to fall apart.
Yeah.
You leave a city and it's an abandoned city and it starts to decay.
Yep.
And so things just naturally are like that, naturally flowing downhill. So you have to constantly be fighting the
Yes.
mess.
Yeah.
And that's like a good representation of marriage too. Like your marriage is, you can't just let it sit. Like
Yeah.
you have to, it's a constant battle for it.
Yeah.
Like you're swimming uphill.
Yep.
And it feels sometimes if you want to make progress, you have to swim even harder. Like you don't just make a little bit of an effort because then you're just neutral. Like you
No.
have to
Yeah.
really
No, it's
push.
true.
And so yeah, dishes and stuff like that, or you leave a mess in the house. It's like you said that's a sign of poor mental health. Like I think that's
If you can't leave something, if you can't go to bed until everything's perfect, that's wrong. What's going on?
yeah.
Like tomorrow, those dishes can be. You've got to get your rest. You've got to keep your sanity. And if cleaning constantly your house doesn't allow you that rest, you got to stop that. Really, the best thing. It's a vain thing at that point. If you can't imagine someone walking in and seeing a sock in the middle of the living room floor, if that destroys your soul just thinking of it, that's vain. Come on, you got to
Yeah.
get over that. You're a family with kids. You know, the rest of the world that I've seen and traveled, I never really traveled to nice places. As you know, I go to
Yeah.
the, the developing countries. They're humble. You know, they bring you into their home and it's so humble, you know, but they're so honored to have you in their home. You know, what if it was more about the person visiting than your stinking home? You know, just bring people
Yeah.
in, love them, honor them. We could learn a lot from people who don't have a lot. It's
Yeah.
a lot that gets in the way of, a lot.
Yeah. No, that's true.
Yeah, just we can't you can't live a life on this planet and expect perfect and clean and organized and structured. We can't do it. We lose our minds trying.
Yeah.
And waste a lot of time trying.
Do you know much about Buddhists?
I do, yeah.
Because this is kind of funny. I ran into a guy. I was doing motorcycle drills in a parking lot, and this
Yeah.
guy, he was doing drills too. And so I just went over to him and I started talking to him. And after a couple hours, we just sat on our bikes and we were talking.
Yeah.
And he mentioned how he was Buddhist and how one of the primary principles, I guess, is detaching yourself. So
Mhm.
that suffering is caused by attachment.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
that's the most extreme form of Buddhism, is detaching yourself from everything.
Yes. Yes.
And so, which I think that's too far, because
Yes.
he mentioned how he ended up missing, I think, his mom's birthday or Mother's Day or something,
Yeah.
because he detached himself. And so,
Wow.
and he said he felt really bad for it. And I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, so that's how you know that worldview doesn't really fit with reality.
Yeah. It sure doesn't.
Because you had conviction for following it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just interesting because I think that there's value in that. Like you have a lot of stuff, and if you're attached to it, then that causes a lot of suffering.
Yes.
But that doesn't necessarily mean detach yourself from everything. Or maybe it does, but not in the way
Well,
that
it
it's
is
like,
a strange dichotomy because
Yeah.
Christianity is very big on detach yourself from this world,
Yeah.
right? They overcame revelation. They overcame by the blood of the Lamb, the word of their testimony. They did not love this world even to the point of death. Like there's a detachment from this world that we're called to, and it's
Yeah.
a healthy one. And it should be, hey, God, thanks for this house, but we're not attached to this house. If you want to move us somewhere, we are fluid. We are going to move. That kind of detachment is different than
Yeah.
Buddhist. It's different than Buddhist type of detachment
Yeah.
and their
Because
goal.
there's like no association with it
Yes,
even.
right. And so our detachment is more, Lord,
It's not ours.
I'm clung to you. You're all I need. I gotta
Yeah.
everything else we hold loosely.
That's what it means to be a steward. That's what I'm learning, is that
That's good.
when someone entrusts you with something and it's theirs, you don't just bury it or say, I'm going to detach from this and
Yeah.
just set it aside. Like it's yours to take care of until whoever owns it wants you to do something with it. And if they say, hey, go give it to that person now,
Yes.
then
Yeah.
you do that. Or if they say, give it back to me, then you're like, okay, here it
Yeah.
is.
It's
And so
just
it's like
yours for
that
a
sense
moment.
of, it's like a weird attached but detached thing where it's like you're not the owner of it,
Mm-hmm.
but you're still attached to it because it belongs to someone else.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of, yeah, that's kind of weird.
It's pretty powerful.
Attached but detached.
But that's what stewardship is. Yes. That's what it is. It's really, and honestly, I think we all, as parents, right away, this kid is not mine. Like this, God made this little bugger,
Yeah.
and
That's hard. That's a hard one.
it's super hard. Super hard.
Yeah. I heard I was reading a parenting book and it was talking about how the parents who struggle the most with their kids are the ones who think their kids are theirs
Mm-hmm.
or represent them.
Yeah.
And they don't,
Yeah.
they aren't their own human being. So
Yeah.
they'll try to sign their kids up for all the sports and all the extracurriculars. And if they don't do
Yeah.
well in them, then they're poorly representing their parent. And
Yeah.
then the parent starts to fall apart. So that you have like this trophy child
all
idea.
all this pressure on this child
Yeah.
who could just be having fun and loving life.
Yeah. And it's
Yeah.
just an individual.
So it's trying to live vicariously the things you couldn't in your life, and
Yeah.
you want to see your kids live through. Man, that's a hard one. That is not an easy one, because the temptation to step in and try and control it and try and
Yeah. Even little things
it's
like
strong.
the tantrums in the store. Like
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't have to be, oh, I want my kid to be a perfect athlete. It could just be, I want my kid to behave in public. Like that.
Yes.
That stuff is
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah.
Like, because your kid is screaming in public and it's like, this is my kid. Everyone's looking at me because this is my kid.
Yeah.
And I have a response. But there's truth in that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also like this is a human being who's just figuring out life and they kind of have to navigate it. And you just kind of have to guide them.
Yeah.
But you can't just put your hand over their mouth and say like, stop.
No.
Like, yeah.
Yeah. Like, no, you can't.
So that's hard.
It is. It's humbling. Parenting's humbling. It's so humbling all the time.
So back to the mess. Our kids 1 and 3. Is there a point where things start to kind of stay clean? A little less messy,
yes,
less chaotic?
absolutely. And especially with girls, it seems like at the age of 3, they start to catch on. By 4, they're really actually clean,
Yeah.
Girls generally more than boys. But I don't know that the bedroom isn't a lifelong battle for boys or girls, because girls will go in and they've got just so much clothes because they all have, it's all handed down. It's whatever. And so all of our kids thrift. We have more clothes than Goodwill at our house now. But at the end of the day, they go through it all. No, I'm not wearing this. No, I'm not wearing this. No, I'm not wearing this. And they're in a hurry and they're rushing and their friends are honking the horn. So there's always some phase of mess. But then they get older and it's like, okay, girls, you got to clean your room up. Yeah, I know.
It's not just you. You're not going in and doing
They don't need to
everything.
be told twice, kind of thing.
Huh.
But so there's always the bedroom is what I'm saying. But then outside the bedroom where reality happens with family and
There's
stuff,
hope.
there's a
hope
lot
for
of
our
hope.
living room.
There's a lot of hope, dude.
We bought a carpet cleaner and I'm carpet cleaning our carpet in our living room like every weekend now. Because it's like, I'll just clean it and then there's a spill.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's so frustrating. And our dog too. Our dog will go and knock something over and it's like, just so much chaos.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's hard.
And you need room too. It seems like with kids, things close in on you. Like, it's like that's where I got to a point. We were living in a basement, raising support as missionaries. The girls were just learning to walk, and I could not get away.
Yeah.
I was in the bathroom, like a man does, trying to escape.
Yeah.
Just to take a breath. And these fingers were coming under the door, and I was like, "Oh my gosh!"
Emily has it worse. I will admit.
Yeah,
the kids crawling on her and crying for her. Like she has it a lot worse than I do.
Yeah.
Like we were eating dinner the other night, and I'm just sitting on the couch eating, and she's over on the chair, and the kids are all crawling on her, asking for more. And, and she's like, "Must be nice." And I'm like, I don't know what to say. Like I told her, and this probably wasn't the right answer. I said, "This is the difference in our parenting styles." Because I'm like, no, like no means no. And she's like, okay, you're cute. Like that's, and I think that's important on both sides.
No, it's a wonderful balance. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's just kind of funny because it's hard to blame her because her parenting style, it's weird to say that we have different styles, but I think there's just a difference between men and women.
Correct.
And so she just does things a little bit different. She does not like spanking the kids, and I'm like the disciplined one in that.
Yep.
And so if she spanks them, it's like
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
more scary to them because I think they associate it to when I spank them.
Yeah.
Um, but I might get in trouble for that. But I think that you should, when you spank your kids, it shouldn't just be like, no.
No, they should know that this hurts.
Did you
Yeah.
spank?
I did. I barely ever had to.
Okay.
So I was a
So
hair.
you would spank them hard then?
No, I mean, yeah, they would feel it.
Yeah.
I mean, but there'd never ever be. They'd hardly cry. Okay,
Yeah.
so I
I'd
wasn't
say permanent or long-term damage is not okay. I think
right.
if there's like a red spot for a few minutes, I feel
That's
like
fine. Yeah,
that's fine.
yeah. There
But
should be a little rush of blood to the surface.
yeah, yeah,
What
yeah.
happened?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, they can handle it. Like
Yeah.
they can't handle if you don't do it. Kids don't know how to cope without discipline. That's what they can't handle. So you got to do it. But at the end of the day, also, it's like God made Emily be that so tender, that warm receiver.
Yeah.
And he made you to be the discipliner. And that's how it works in most marriages, the men
Yeah.
and women. And so, yeah, that's the thing about family. God's model is perfect. It needs to be fought and defended because kids need dad, kids need mom,
Yeah.
and mom and dad are different for a reason. And that's a huge one there. But
Yeah.
at the end, so what I would have to do is pull their hair. I don't know. My dad did that to me, like way back here, and then he'd lift up. It hurts. Like so
That's a weird one. I haven't heard that one.
I only had to do that. Like
I've heard pulling ears. Like
They're-
you pull their ear
if
back.
they're being disrespectful or not listening or whatever. So they'd get a hair pull. Beth thought I was like, oh my gosh.
Like pick them up by their hair. Or
Yeah,
no?
no, not quite. No, but they go, oh, okay,
Yeah.
like that, and
I've done that with Shepherd. I'll hold him by his head and I'll pick him up. But
Yeah.
it looks bad, but he'll have his little hands on my.
Uh-huh.
He'll be laughing. He loves it.
Yeah,
So I'll like have his head, and then he grabs onto my arms, and I'll just pick him up. And
Yeah.
he's just chuckling the whole time.
it's weird how resilient the kids are.
Especially boys and girls are. At least I've
Crazy.
noticed they're so different. Like Shepherd, I'll hold him up upside down and be swinging him around, and he's
Yeah.
fine. And then Phoebe will ask to do it because she sees him laughing. She thinks it's fun.
Yeah.
So I'll do it to her, and she'll
Like,
start crying.
It's not
Yeah.
my jam. Yeah,
She's like, no, that's not it.
that's so funny.
Or when I'm like trying to tickle her too, she's like, no, stop.
Yep.
Shepherd loves it. You have to I have to be aggressive with him to get something out of him too.
Yes,
But
right. It takes a little more.
It's
Yeah.
funny the
Yeah.
difference between boys and girls. The other thing we're doing at dinner, pretty much every time I'm like, hey Phoebe, I'll say, are you a boy or a girl? And she's like, oh, I'm a girl. Is mommy a boy or a girl? And so we'll go through that thing.
Yeah.
Name all of her friends. Are they a boy or a girl? And then I'll be like, Phoebe, can you ever be a boy? I'm trying to get that in her.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, that's so silly.
Yeah. Good job.
But also, I think that you can go too far into that where you're just saying it gets not culty, but you're just telling them to repeat things that they don't understand.
Right.
And so I think
Right.
for right
That's a good
now,
point.
it's like good for her. But also maybe as she ages, I'll have to go deeper into it and say, no, there's actually truth in it. It's not just something that we say.
Yeah.
Because
right.
she'll repeat anything that I tell her. I
Right.
can tell her the sky's green, and she'll be like, yeah.
Yeah. I
Actually,
see it.
maybe not at this point, but
she might call you out now.
she's smart now. Yeah. But yeah, so I think there's a lot of danger in not explaining things, because I had those kinds of parents who, I mean, I love them. They're great, but we had a lot of rules, but I didn't have a lot of understanding.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
And yeah, that's with reality too. It can be dangerous, because then when you have someone who slips in and gives your kids a taste of the alternate
Yeah.
worldview, then they're like, oh, I don't really understand why I believe what I believe.
Yeah, and that's the thing. They have to be able to articulate why they believe what they believe. It's not easy. That investment's the most important one and the most difficult one. But yeah, it's worth the fight.
Do you have any solid, just kind of a overarching parenting tip that is just a solid piece of advice?
So I think, well, if you look at my kids and you're like, hey, Dan, I would love if my kids turned out like yours, that's a good piece of advice, is to find parents whose kids turned out the way you want your kids to turn out. Honestly, and then go to them and ask them,
Like this?
what did you do?" Yeah. But really, it's like, okay, what's the difference? Beth and I have done that a handful of times. Some incredible parents and their kids, and we're like, "Man, Lord, what are they doing?" And he's like, "Well, ask them." So we'd ask them,
Yeah.
every one of them, 100% of the time said, "Here's what we did. We fasted and prayed." Every one of them. And
Mm.
that's what we've done. So that's where we're at. So at the beginning of every year, the first 21 days we fast. Not a complete fast, not like, but we do a very strict type of thing. And then yeah,
Mm.
we turn 3, I think it's 3 months a year. We fast from all media and just all media, social media. Um
You said
it
3 months?
3 months, 3 different months over the
Oh,
year.
okay.
And then
That's a smart
it's
one.
been really the best. That's been the best because it brings us all together, keeps us playing games together
With
at the table
your
at
kids
night.
too?
Yeah, everybody has to. So if they have friends over,
Yeah.
their friends can't be on.
Oh, wow.
It's kinda fun. But
That's gotta be different for I'm sure they
it
love
is
that, but that's gotta be
yeah,
different
it's so different. It's
because you hang
different
out with
for
friends and it's like you're both scrolling next to each other,
I know.
and that's so it's weird to
Now you
say.
gotta talk. You gotta
Yeah.
play a game. Yeah.
Huh.
But on going back to your question though, it's a simple, easy out. Like you lob that question up, fasting and prayer is an easy out. Like I can easily say fasting and prayer to any parenting question, but it's
Yeah.
absolutely the truth. Literally going before the Lord, interceding, fasting for your kids, praying for protection. The Holy Spirit, the Bible tells, Jesus said, He is to tell you of things to come, going before God saying, "What is it about my kids? What's their future? How do I guide them? How do I lead them?" You know? And that's I think okay, and then the next piece of advice is be honest. You're a
Mhm.
sinner. Let them hear you say I'm sorry. Let them see you walk humbly, when you're stupid.
Yeah.
When you blow it with your kids, it's the best opportunity to go and deepen your relationship with them. Daddy loves you. I'm sorry. I remember my daughter Maggie, she would hide if she got hurt by me, if I hurt her feelings. And it was never on purpose. I would never try to. But I might say something that was dumb or embarrassed her, and she would go and hide. And I knew this is an opportunity for me to show her the Father and seek her out and don't give up.
Mhm.
Don't take no. Yeah, and so I found her behind this chair and she didn't want to talk to me. I'm like, "Hi, Maggie." And she's like, "Uh-uh."
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
"Come on, I want to talk, Maggie. I'm so sorry. Let me hold you and give you a hug and say sorry."
Yeah.
But God will pursue, 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 pursue.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we got to do with our kids is really just pursue them and just get in their face with love. And then, so between those things, man, just, you know, always have the word of God for your kids. God
Yeah.
says this. We do this because the Bible says so. And then why, give them the word and
Mm.
your kids will be great.
There's a lot of good stuff in there. Imma have to watch this back and take your but, I'll say last question. If you had to give a pitch to, 20-year-old boys and girls to the pitch for marriage and children, and you had just an elevator pitch for it, what
Yeah.
would you tell them?
Yeah. I would say, I truly, truly, truly would say, have kids. I'd say get married young, have kids young, and love it. Just totally love it. It's the best life. Throw yourself into that family. Have kids and enjoy it. Yeah, I mean, it's the greatest adventure you can have. Think about this. One day, I drove home from a hospital with this human being who the day before I had never met, and he was with me forever since. You know what I mean? Like this is the greatest and most glorious thing. So
Yeah.
get married young, have a lot of kids if you want. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And dive fully into that family. Dive in, do it. Just make it everything. You know?
Yeah, I've said, recently, I don't know how I thought of this, but that humans are infinitely valuable,
Hmm.
and so having kids is the one way that you can add infinite value to your life.
Yeah. It's well said. It's 100% true. Infinitely valuable.
Yeah.
Eternal souls made in the image of God.
So yeah, like you were saying,
It's
compare that
absolutely
to
amazing.
a ski trip.
Can't.
How much is that? That's
Can't.
yeah.
That one
You could put
hug
a
from
price
my
tag on
kid.
that.
Yep. That one hug from my kid, I will never forget. That feeling of love, I was like, blew my mind. I have wrecked skis on the ski hill, and I have forgotten a lot of wonderful runs, and I'll never remember them.
Yeah.
I'll tell you this, that one moment, take to the grave.
Would you say your worst moments are with your kids too, though? I would say that. Some of the worst experiences that I've had have been, I say this about marriage and children, like the best, it comes with the best and the worst. So Emily has seen the worst of me and the best of me.
Yeah.
My kids I haven't had them very long, but some of like the angriest moments that I've had have been with them, and also the happiest moments that I've had when I'm playing with them. Like,
Yeah.
so it comes with both.
It does.
So it's like hard to, you tell people, it's really easy to be like, oh, it's so perfect and like, it's amazing. Try it. You'll love it. And then there's also like it's the hardest thing you'll ever do. So it's like, I compare it to going to the gym. Like you go to the gym and you work out and it's hard, and you don't say like, oh, the gym is the best if it didn't do anything.
Right.
Like there's a downside to the gym so that you can experience the upside.
The upside, yeah.
And so you could live your life, to me, it's like you could live your 20s like kind of doing the ups and downs like that, or you could live them like riding the highs and also the lows.
Yeah.
So marriage will do that. Marriage will make your highs high and your lows low. And then you add kids to it. And it's like
higher and lower.
Yep. But, and then like there's the people who lose a child, and like that'll be the lowest. I couldn't even imagine that. Like that would be the lowest low I could ever imagine.
Mm-hmm.
And so like that's the cost to children too, is like some people lose their kids. But I hate to end on a downer.
No, I don't think you're ending on a downer. I think that's the perfect spot, because that is a huge reason people don't have kids.
Yeah.
Fear of that loss, fear of that hurt. Here's a wild thought. God allows that in the lives of people he truly loves. He allows them to lose their kid. So my brother and his wife, their son passed the age of 17 in the gym. Was he 16 or 17? Anyway, that sorrow, that pain, that low, that depth, I don't know either. But even God allows us to go there. And you know what? He's there when we get there, you know? And so, man, I will say this, and I firmly believe this. If I had a year with a child and lost them, that gift of that year is worth the pain of losing them, versus never knowing them, never hearing of them, never seeing them, never naming them, never holding them, never. What? No way. You know, life is worth the loss. You know, it's worth the pain. Even if God allows that, like you're saying. But it does stop people from having kids. Just that. I can't imagine. Nope, I can't have kids. That would kill me. That would destroy me. That's not true. God meets you there. David said, if I go to hell, you're there. If I go to the highest heavens, you're there. It doesn't matter. You know, God will be there. So go for it. Take the chance. The greatest gamble you're going to ever do. You can file bankruptcy. You could risk all of your finances 20 times in your life. File bankruptcy 20 times. Start over 20 times. You haven't really lost anything. So the greatest risk you can take is really relational risk, isn't it? People can hurt you. People can stab you in the back. People can abandon you. And it's hard. But it's the greatest reward. You know, you have someone to love you. Someone to walk life with. It's God's design. It's really God's design, let's face it. It's his command. So anyway, go have kids.
That's good. That was a long elevator ride, but yeah.
Hey, sorry about that. You know,
I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
I want to have you on in the future too.
That'd be
whether
fun.
It's a year down the line or next week or something. I don't know.
I mean, no.
You're just my new co-host.
Anytime. It'd be super fun.
Thank you.
We'll talk about a lot of cool things, I'm sure.
And have cigars.
Wait, when are we doing that?
We'll have to schedule that.
All right.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening.
Fun.
Let me know if you have any questions about the episode or if you enjoyed it. Like, comment, subscribe. Peace.